Kristen in the front.
Dave, whether it was Max or Kike, kind of this conversation of momentum and looking to keep things going as you head into this one with wanting to close this out, what is just the feeling amongst the group as you are continuing to build on the such good of baseball that you're playing at the moment?
I think it's just kind of staying in this, mental state. I think that we're in a good spot. Guys aren't too high. Guys aren't too lax. Just focus on kind of, as they said, keep the momentum and just play good baseball. But, I feel good where we're at, the focus.
Straight back there on the right.
Dave, regarding the wheel play in the ninth, Mookie mentioned that it was a conversation him and Miggy had after a game against the Angels, and Miggy said you use that play when it's do or die situations. I guess, how often do you get those kind of nuggets from Miguel as a leader in the clubhouse and the value he brings to this team?
All the time. He kind of asks me the right questions, and, he wants to manage at some point. And so he's always trying to learn, and he's really helped Mookie's growth, really sped up the process because of the nuances of the position and thinking about things that might or might not happen and getting ahead of it. And so it's good to see Mookie thinks as a shortstop, and Miggy's a big reason why.
Gonna go to Jack here in the second row.
Do you think Sheehan and Roki will be back online for you tonight?
They should be out there playing catch right now, and so once they do that, then I'll converse with Bardo and Mark and kind of see where they're at.
I know we've asked you about the potential of using starters out of the pen, but when you look at these two games specifically, especially with how the schedule's lined up for Snell and Shohei, is that something you have on your mind as a possibility coming into these tonight and potentially tomorrow, or are you going to try to stay away from that?
I think as far as those two guys, I'm staying away from that. They're not a part of any kind of equation or math that I'm thinking through. But it is a game that, we're going to do everything we can to win, within reason, obviously. But I feel good with, obviously, Yamamoto. I feel good with the guys that, in a leverage game that I'm going to go to.
Okay, I'm going to go with Fabian in the back.
Yeah, Dave, you sort of kept Teo third and Freddie fourth. Is that just kind of anticipating that Suarez will get into this game later on?
Yeah, I don't I don't mind Teo. I actually like Teo versus Nola. It's more curveball versus slider. Also, obviously, the thought of Ranger potentially coming into the game, taking a chunk of the game, I feel that, spacing some of those guys out kind of combats that, puts us in a good position to kind of go at, whether they deploy certain guys in the pen or go with Ranger. I feel kind of doing that, puts us in a good spot.
And then is Will going to have any sort of limitation? What have you thought about the at-bats that he's had, especially considering the layoff that he had between facing sort of live pitchers?
The at-bats have been fantastic. Especially considering the arms that he's had to face coming into both those games and the layoff. So, if I didn't feel he could finish the game and I wouldn't have started him. So I feel good. He's in a good spot. And I think the at-bat quality has been great.
We go far left, Sonia.
Dave, could you see Will being in the starting lineup kind of going forward, or do you need to see how he comes out of a full 9 innings first?
That's the plan. But yeah, we got to see how it looks afterward. But that's the hope. That's why we sort of slow played it a little bit, so we don't, regress and with his health. So that's the thought. But we'll know more after tonight.
Are you surprised at all that a little more than a month after, fracturing part of his hand, he's here and able to do this for you guys?
I'm not surprised, given who he is, and. The fracture, typically it's 4 or 5 weeks to kind of heal it. So it's healed, still some residual uncomfort, but with him, he wants to be out there. So not surprised as far as the person.
Go straight back in the right, Carrie.
Dave, what makes Yoshinobu the right guy for this moment?
he is he's very confident. I think that he has a pitch mix that can kind of manage lefties, righties, enough velocity to handle this team. He does a great job of managing his emotions, as good as anyone I've been around. And so being able to, the opportunity to close it out, he's the right guy tonight.
Anything else for Doc? We got one, Kristen here.
Dave, just to follow up on what Jack had asked you about the starters, if you guys are in a position in which it makes sense, could you see Tyler Glasnow coming out of the bullpen in a game like tonight, or would you kind of just stay away from him in general?
We would stay away from him. We're going to stay away from Tyler. So Tyler won't be an option tonight.
Okay, we got one more in the middle. Eric. I'm sorry, I got Bill too. All right, two more.
Dave, just following up, how is Miguel Rojas' hamstring, and is he limited at all?
I was out there with him taking grounders, watching him take grounders, and he looked really good. So I don't think there's any limitations with the hamstring. I think he'll be ready when called upon. No limitations.
And Muncie's back in the lineup. I know he had the oblique, and then he had the leg thing after the hit by pitch. How has he looked here at the plate the last few weeks, since he's been back? He looks okay. I think that the line double the other night, I think, is a confidence builder. I thought the at-bat prior, taking the walk, was good. Max at times gets a little too quick. This would be a good test for him. Aaron's going to throw a bunch of curveballs his way. So to kind of be able to kind of stay back and not get too out front is going to be a good test for him tonight.
Doc, how important is it to win tonight and not give them hope?
It's important. You have these guys on their heels, and you're at home. We expect a great, boisterous crowd. So we've got one of our aces on the mound. So the way we're playing, we want to put these guys away and don't let them up for air.
Thanks, Doc.
All right, thanks, guys.